Okay, guys, here we are here again. So we're going to be busting out answers to tons of questions. I love to see, by the way, that there's already preloaded questions here. When we first started these Q&As, didn't have that. I had to wait for you guys to give me some questions. I'm glad to see the popularity of this Q&A picking up, and you see the value in the answers that we're giving here. So anyway, I'll get right into it. So Reed, what is your opinion about the unknown age group in Microsoft ads? So good question. Microsoft certainly has a ton more spam than Google as a whole. That said, you view, but a much lower cost per click. So what Microsoft's clearly done is threw up their hands and said, we don't know how to get rid of this damn spam, so we'll just charge less per click, and that will be the way that we get people to not quit and deal with it. And so with that said, that's the way that it is. Now, unknown age group in general is most of the traffic because most people don't have a Microsoft account. So unfortunately, unlike with Google, they cannot really know much about their users, which is why the spam issue is worse, by the way, itself. So I have in the past, to get rid of spam, got rid of unknown users. The problem is, unless you're in a big niche, you're not going to have much traffic left. I mean, it's 95% unknown aged users. So unless you're in a big ass niche, that's not going to be a viable strategy. But if you are in a huge niche and you only have a tiny budget, and so you only can scoop out one tiny little scoop of sand from the beach anyway, that's a great strategy to get rid of it, at least initially. Reed, also, regarding audience ads that show in search campaigns, not audience campaigns in Microsoft ads, do they work if a campaign is on manual bidding? So, yes, they will work. Generally speaking, that will only work for mass market products. So, like, for instance, we had a mold removal cream product that we were promoting there. And that worked great with the audience network. But that's because more than 1% of the population have a mole that can get removed. So we don't really, it can literally get blasted out there. And it's a pretty useful product that most people are going to see it. And it's not like life insurance. Well, nobody gives a shit about buying any life insurance. If they wanted it, they'd already have it, unless you're going to give them some incredible deal and bait them in some way like that. So, but if you have something like that, you can go for it. Porter, hey, Corey, you're right. Google is always listening to you. As soon as you talked about your Porsche, it started showing me those particular retargeting ads over and over and over and over. Oh, shit. Well, yes. Mustafa, hey, how's it going, buddy? Yeah, well, it started now. I've got 1 year of data from my first junk car campaign using CallRail conversion goals. Can I use those same goals for a new campaign and start directly with maximized conversion, skipping manual bidding? Good question, by the way. I've never heard anybody ask that before. So one thing that you'll kind of want to keep in mind is that the customer lists are really, really good at shaping campaign performance and where your ad should show up, which is why you always want to use them. Like, if you're not using them, you're crazy. And for that matter, the way that people use them is they way underutilize them. They don't set up separate customer lists for one-time buyers versus multi-buyers, customer lists for just subscribers or inquiry people, different customer lists for people that buy different categories of items or even individual SKUs or services. All of this stuff should be done if you want to get the full value out of customer lists, so that you can have dedicated lists for each of your campaigns ultimately, because each type of buyer, each product has a different profile of buyer. So that all said, even if you're doing it at this hyper psycho level, like I would do, it's still not going to do everything for you, like building up a campaign. Like, so just to put it into perspective here, you can upload a list of 100,000 customers and it's still not going to make your campaigns work as if you got even 10,000 conversions racked up in your campaign manually via the conversion tag. To put it into perspective, 100,000 might take the place of 1,000 conversions or 500 conversions, but it's not nearly as good. I don't know what that exact ratio of this many customers on a customer list equal this many conversions on a conversion tag, but I want to say it's probably 100 to 1,000 to 1 or something like that, something crazy. So it helps quite a bit. It's not everything. And so therefore, I'm going to start out with manual bids anyway, generally speaking. If I had a list of 1 million customers, maybe I would just skip it. That would be but so in other words, unless you have an ass load of customers to upload to the system, just start it out with manual bidding. Vijay. One of my client has about $1,000 per day budget with 15 branches all over the country. So far running search campaigns. Should I go with PMAX aesthetics clinic? It is. So no, is just to simply put, PMAX it's so hyped up right now because Google's recommending the shit out of it. The reps are recommending the shit out of it. Therefore, all the bonehead YouTubers and social influencers that are in this space are recommending it because they're you got boneheads getting recommendations from people that are one-sided in what they're recommending because they want to make money. You got to think for yourself on this. The real is PMAX is a money waster for lead generation. Can it work if you use really good lead level tracking? Eventually, yes, but you're better off still with a dedicated search campaign, dedicated display campaign, dedicated demand gen campaign. Do it up right. Have these campaigns set up and build them up separately because you have all the controls with them. And you're just, the whole idea of just setting up a PMAX with the conversion tracking set up right, the system's going to piss a ton of your money away before it ever gets to the results. Whereas with you just start out with a demand gen campaign by itself. You can start it low and slow. Use the data that it's giving you to figure out what you want to do versus what you want to not want to do. So ultimately, and there's different things you're going to want to do with the demand gen campaign than a YouTube campaign, because the demand gen campaign will typically work better, and you'll scale more if you are able to scale that demand gen campaign quicker and with different settings than with what you did with YouTube. When you start bunching everything together in PMAX, now you got to do the same thing on display as you're doing on YouTube. And the settings that you would want are different on these different channels, which is the main reason why you don't use PMAX, even though technically you could get some results with it. Why would you want to rid yourself of these really good controls that they give you to run a campaign tightly? I set up the G tag and tag manager and configure Google Ads goals, but I didn't run any ads in the account. Does Google consider conversions coming organically for optimization of the campaigns if I start? I want to absolutely say that they do use the conversions in Google Analytics for your Google Ads, particularly for PMAX campaigns. They do that. But for everything else besides PMAX, the organic conversions, from what I can tell, they use it. I don't want to say none, but not nearly as much as what they would with a PMAX campaign. So it's going to help some. Unfortunately, not enough. And I wish it did, because I would just, before I ran ads, I would just set up the GA4 tracking goals and then rack up 1,000 conversions, then run my ads. That'd be nice if it would work that way. VJ, in the account. So and just setting up the conversion tracking in the Google Ads account, hoping the organic sales that you get, hopefully that trains the account without running the ads minimally, maybe at best. Porter, talking about unknown users and the reduction of traffic. Is this true with Google Ads, search ads as well? Want to run using demographic filters, and I was thinking about eliminating the unknown users. So unknown users are going to cut out half of your traffic. flat out. So you got to ask yourself, is it worth getting rid of half of the traffic to have better quality traffic at the other end of things? And generally speaking, if you're smart, you're always asking yourself, am I getting the ROI that I want right now? And if I'm not, what do I need to cut out? And if I am, focus more so on how do I spend more money, right? I mean, you always want to constantly be more efficient, don't get me wrong. But so as it applies to this, I would be asking myself, do I want to, am I in efficiency mode at this point or scaling mode? Is my ROI good? Then don't be cutting out unknown users. If it's not, potentially take it out. But even before you take it out, you can see the data in the demographics settings menu, what unknown is doing versus the other demographics settings. And you could decide based upon your cost per conversion and ROAS for unknown users, whether you want to get rid of it or not, instead of just having a knee-jerk reaction, taking it out right away. That said, also, though, you could start out without having the unknown, knowing that because in your market, you're selling, walkers. So therefore, nobody under 55 is likely to buy this at a very high rate. So I'm going to start out with 55 plus only. When I start making money, I'll try the unknown aged users later on when I have some more breathing room to run a campaign at a loss to see if something will work and to, find the aspects or part of it that will work, given that you could find unknown users works with a combination of certain levels of income targeting with it and stuff that, part of it will work, part of it won't. And then as you're trying to figure that out, you can weather it because you got money coming in from the thing that's already working versus trying to, what most people do and why they fail is they just do a bunch of shit right away. All their money's gone and they're just out of the game. Starting low and slow is typically the way to go. And then if you start low and slow and then you can't spend your budget, then you start being more aggressive. But until you need to do everything, don't do everything. Mustafa, do you have one Google Ads account for one niche, like towing, and one customer, or what? For our agency? So if you have 3 towing clients, you would get much faster results for them having the client pay you directly, and then you set up an ad account for them, and then you set up a campaign within that one ad account, because the history in that account is going to make any new campaign for a new towing website work much, much faster than if you set up a new account, same ads, same everything, because Google has an account level history score that they're going to give you as an advertiser to assume and to figure out any new ads, what they're likely to do. So you have to build up history in that new account, which costs money. But at the same time, obviously for the client, they're not going to own the ad account. They're going to, so I always tell clients all the time, like, yeah, these other agencies that specialize, they can get you results right away, but it's because they're using an aged account. And that may feel good at the time. A year from now, you're likely going to want your own ad account going. And then now you've already invested all the money to make their account better. Do you so think about this in advance, even though it's so like getting the results right away is so tempting. Long term, you're not building the asset that you want. And if you go to sell your company and the buyer asks, how the hell are you getting your customers? And your answer is, oh, I buy leads from this marketing agency. You know what the value of your company is at that point in time? Not great, because the advertising agencies got your business by the balls. And if they want to raise your pricing, you have no choice. You have to pay it. Do you want to put yourself in that position because you're too cheap, short-sighted, whatever, to just get your own ad account going? Hobbes, how would you do retargeting for cosmetic surgery / healthcare with demand gen when it's against policy? Invasive medical procedures, which include cosmetic surgery, surgical procedures, or injections. So the easy answer for this is ad roll, because they claim they care, but they really don't care most of the time. They just kind of look the other way. And then Bing remarketing. And you'll get basically the same exposure without having to ask and kiss Google's butt in order to get it. That would be the simple answer there. Even though, by the way, if you wonder why, or if I do that normally, the answer is no. I only use that when I can't do the Google retargeting. Google retargeting is still the best value in terms of click quality, and that's where you want to go by default. Oh, sorry, Mustafa. I did see you had another question here. Do you give a conversion goal as sale to demand gen campaigns? So it's a good question as well. The answer to that is yes, but more so what I'm doing now is I'm creating a custom conversion or custom combined goal that will take purchases plus all the other primary marked goals that I have into consideration. So if they called or filled out the form or whatever, it's still going to optimize for all of it. That's the way that you actually still are able to optimize for everything. If you couldn't do that or didn't want to do that for whatever reason, obviously you would just, if you had enough purchase data coming in, you would just optimize for purchases. But if you optimize for purchases and only have a couple purchases a week, and that may not be more ideal than just optimizing for phone calls, even though a phone call doesn't correlate with the purchase as tightly as a purchase correlates with the purchase itself, because you need a certain amount of data for a machine learning algorithm to be able to make great decisions for you. Still, at the end of the day, Miss Marie, what percentage of people actually purchase after clicking via PPC advertising? So, yeah, wow, that was really a question that it was like, that's so hard to answer on a generalized basis. The main thing is the more expensive the product or service, the less the conversion rate is going to be, because it takes more for them to decide to buy. Okay. So if you have a product that's $100, your conversion rate should be 3 to 5%. If you have a product that's $1,000, it's going to be 0.3 to 0.5%. If you have a product that's $10, you're going to have 10 to 15% conversion rates. So that's the main deciding factor. And then obviously there's tons of other sub factors. That's the biggest factor of all, of kind of seeing where you should be at right now with what you're doing. And of course, the other main factor, by the way, which I will also say, is the need of the product. Like in home services, people don't need a kitchen. So our conversion rate, no matter how good we set up the campaigns, is only going to be like 10, 15%. Whereas in the towing space, we can get 60% conversion rates, because a person ain't screwing around when they're looking for a towing company. They need it. It's not they want it, they need it. So the more they need it, the higher your conversion rates should be. Vijay, should we use AI max setting in search campaigns? I heard it works similar to DSA. No. Simply put on that, more marketing gobbledygook for Google to get you to convince to waste your money on traffic that doesn't convert. It's basically just rebranded broad match, but worse, actually. And if you have search partners turned on, it'll be 95% search partners traffic with this AI max setting turned on. So Google's smart. They know people are lazy, and they play to that fact. Everybody wants results without having to work. No offense, but they also know ad managers want to get and maximize their ROI from their services. How can we do almost nothing for the client so we can keep as much money for ourselves? Or at least, how can we charge a little bit of money because it's easy to sell then? Convincing a client to spend $300 a month with you versus $3,000 is a way easier sell. And then how can we, as a result of that, do almost nothing in terms of management so we can sell it to them for that? Ultimately, and Google now knows that both parties, regardless of who it is, want that just do X, boom, sales come. And if it were that easy, everybody would do it. And there would be no way to stand out. And marketing is a game where you either crush everybody and you make all the money, or you don't and you don't make shit, especially with Google Ads nowadays. So you can't just do the bare minimum and do this setting works when everybody knows what that setting is. You're going to have to do more. Google knows people just want to know what's that one trick that you're going to be able to make a fortune, and they give it to you with the understanding that they want you to spend money over here on something you wouldn't normally want if they sold it to you as is. Here's the thing that we want to sell to you. No, they wrap it up with this fancy AI sounding thing, and then you'll jump on it, you'll go for it. And also because you want it to be easy. Great results with PPC is not easy. And if you want it to be easy, you're going to have money you're wasting. So it's up to you. Eventually you can get results with it. Sure. Have really good tracking. Eventually the campaign will get you results, but not before wasting tons of your money. And DSA, so I'll sound like a bit of an hypocrite when it comes to this, but DSA we do actually use, but I only use it when there's no other option to do a manual campaign where you're setting up unique ads for different products itself, I don't even use it in the service space, because when I sell 20,000 nuts and bolts, I don't have the technical capability to market these bolts individually, and DSA works really good in that situation. But if I sell 5 products, I'm using DSA, I'm just being lazy when there's no reason to be that lazy. Hey Zeus, I have spent most of my time on FB ads and want to increase spend with Google ads. Should I start with display or search ads? I'm in the FinPub niche. So first of all, I don't even know quite what FinPub is, but generally speaking, almost never you're going to start with display. Most people can't even get it to work unless they know a thing or two about marketing. Interrupting people, especially on display network. It's not anything like Facebook. Facebook, they've kind of got it where you don't have to know much as long as your creative is good. On display network, if your creative is good and you don't know how to really tame that beast, it's not going to work because you're going to get slammed with bot traffic and it's not going to be productive. So I would do search ads anyway up front because it's an easier path initially to get to profitability. But in addition to this, I would watch literally all of my videos about display ads because there's a bunch of stuff you have to know specifically about display ads in order to not waste all your money. Porter, unknown users follow-up. This may sound crazy, but campaign is to hire employees. The age filters we're using to find people in our city, and then conversions if they are pass a personality test. So again, if you can afford to just do certain age demographics, I'm going to say do that. But if you narrow it down and you're not able to spend your budget very easily, then reconsider that. So the answer is yes, you should get rid of the unknown if you can. For that market, it does make sense. I don't want particularly in that market. I mean, the reality is nobody wants to hire old people, right? They want a young blood, less expectations, more energy, and your customer is probably looking for that, or yourselves. So why would you not want to take advantage of those age demographic settings? Think, grow, successful. How would you market a YouTube agency? We have proof with financial channels, health channels, and large creators. We get most retention from businesses. So yeah, there's not that many YouTube agencies out there yet. And there should be, but there's not. So for the most part, it's hard so the easiest thing to do when you're running an agency is just to go to other companies that you've already helped, the companies in which you already got results. You go to other companies that are as close as possible to them and then offer them the same thing. So if you already got results for a, investment firm, you make a list of all the investment firms and you tell them what you did for the other investment firm itself. And ideally hide a little bit what results you got for them until you can get them on a video call so that you could sell to them in person, versus if you just send them the data, they'll look at it and then it'll be hard to get them on a call. So you can build some rapport with them, and then you send email, you call them, you run banner ads towards that person, you send them direct mail pieces in the mail. You just hit them from all angles. That's what we do. And then beyond that, you are going to make sure you document your results and you blast it out on social media. You get it ranked any way you possibly can. Those are the main two ways that you do it. And both of them are, are either going to take money and or time. Unfortunately, there's no quick, easy answer. But if there was, everybody would start an agency. No problem, Miss Marie. Hobbes. I currently run an ad account on leads and bookings as primary. Should I put leads as secondary or just make the campaign optimize for bookings and remove leads from the campaigns, but keep it primary? So, generally speaking, what I'm going to do and recommend is you're going to mark them both primary up front. And then once you get enough booking conversions, you're going to mark the leads goal secondary. And that point in which you should mark the leads goal secondary is going to be around 30 primary or booking goal conversions. Now, I don't want to say, okay, 30, I don't have to think. They'll just boom, 30. That's the number. Don't try to treat things like that. Not with this, but just in general with marketing. It's always going to be a gut feel and looking at the numbers. Ultimately, if you switch over at around 30 and the clicks dive, then you go ahead and you undo that move. But when you switch it over and the clicks stay steady and the conversion stays steady for the next 7 days, you probably made the right move, and it'll slowly take on to the next level or plateau of growth in your account. So in other words, your goal is to switch it over as soon as possible without affecting the overall trajectory of what your account is on, because the end goal should be you're optimizing for bookings, right? That's what you want is bookings. You're just simply using the lead goal to kind of get the campaigns off of the ground. And then once they're off of the ground, that's the time when you want to start optimizing for bookings, given that, of course, it's going to waste less of your sales staff time and your ROI is going to go up, most likely. So anyway, that's my answer for that. Also, currently, while having multiple primary actions, it messes with the TCPA. Yeah, ultimately, I get what you're saying. I mean, if you have a bunch of this goals, they could trigger 3 or 4 goals. That is true. That is right. Which is why you want to keep the other goals primary for as little time as possible. You're literally just only using those other goals as little as possible to get the campaign going good. Whereas you're not going to get the campaign scaled up as quickly without those other goals being there initially. It's just there to get a certain amount of traction at the beginning, and then that is it. So, and then for that matter, you may say, well, I'm not answering your question. The duplication of the goals isn't going to mess with anything, because all you have to do to deal with it is just make the TCPA setting lower initially so that your goal would be to make it as low as necessary so that the campaigns don't say limited by budget, which means Google's trying to make the campaign as efficient as possible for you at that given time. Then when it's constantly capped out and saying limited by budget, that's the time when you more than likely could start taking some of those and mark them secondary, because the campaign's / account is ready for it. No problem thinking, grow successful. Hobbes. Currently, I have 1,000+ booking conversions from 17 campaigns active on the account. Should I do it for all campaigns at once then? So, if you're, as most people do, they want to be ultra safe about anything they're doing so that they don't set their campaigns off. Because there's always a balance with your account in which you can make the necessary changes that I talk about on this channel that get results, and you can make them quick, you can get them done quick, Or you could do more slowly, knowing that the quicker you make these changes, the more likely it is that your results are going to go down before they go back up again, and more sharply down. Even though you would get to your if your result, your goal that you're looking for is right here, and you're, here, you can make the changes that you need to make right away. You could get to this, I have some backwards here. You could get here to the end stage quicker that way. Short term, it's going to send your results south a lot. Executing these changes too quickly. Most businesses I deal with would rather have slower growth that's more steady on the way up than quick growth that's very choppy, unless they're not making any money whatsoever or even close to it right now. And then in that case, they don't care how quickly, and in fact, you would want to do the opposite. Just start making changes quickly. So it depends on how much you're relying on your results right now. But I say all that to say that I would consider doing it slowly. So one goal at a time, right? Or another option would be to, on each campaign, change the goal settings, because you can tell an individual campaign what goals to optimize for, and switch it to only optimize for, let's say, 4 out of the 5 goals. And then once the results stabilize on that particular campaign, do it on campaign 2, then campaign 3. And once you get all the way through and things have normalized, go back to campaign 1 again. And instead of saying optimize for 4 out of the 5 goals, optimize for 3 of the goals. And then, so what you're doing essentially is just putting time in between the so-called overall changes you need to make. And therefore, the algorithm's not going to freak out as much. Your results are not going to probably fluctuate in any meaningful way that the client's going to notice. And the results are not going to grow as quickly, but they're going to be more stable. It's going to be more stable growth. Vijay, does running Google ads for web design and Google ads agency, PPC agency work? And can I start with only SKAGs for these at low budget? I myself did this. Don't do it anymore. Last week I got a wisecrack like, oh, you are a PPC expert and you don't even run Google ads for yourself, which, by the way, I do run thousands of dollars a month in Google ads. It's just not search ads anymore. Remarketing. So, but on the search front, I used to do this. I stopped about, I think it's probably 8 years ago now. And the reason for that is that the clients you're going to get through Google search for this market in particular is smaller clients. And if you charge low rates, it's profitable still. But because what people want out of Google search agencies on Google search, given that if they're going there, they're looking at it as an easy commoditized service to buy, which really it's not. 90% of agencies can't get profitable results consistently. So that what they're focused on more so is cheapness. And if you tell them it's $3,000 a month, they're going to be like, oh, there's no way it should cost that. And then they're going to hire somebody for $500 a month or $1,000 a month, and then more than likely get scammed. But because pretty much everybody who gets to our agency, unless they've hired 3 or 4 agencies before, they don't understand the pricing structure. They don't understand what I'm saying. They don't understand our guarantee. They don't understand anything. They have to go through that learning experience first. So a majority of the people going through Google ads are just clueless. They don't understand that this isn't like hiring your accountant. Like, it's art. It's very difficult to get really good results with ads. And most agencies are going to give you somebody who doesn't know how to get results with ads. So you can't just hire anybody off of Google. Anyway, I don't want to sound like I'm just talking shit here or acting arrogant. Tell you all this to say that the quality of person that you get or caliber of person that you get is more so focused on value, in the sense of value equaling price. And if you're just starting out as an agency and you are undervaluing, or should I say underpricing your services, like I was at the beginning to build a name, I was charging $500 myself at the beginning, even though I should be charging more than that. They got a good value for that price point, better than the competition, and it worked. Then over years, we would charge a little bit more. And at a certain point, the model broke because nobody's paying thousands off of a Google search just typing in Google Ads agency. They think it needs to be cheaper, and they don't know any better yet. And I can't tell them what I'm telling you, which is you do that, you're probably going to get scammed because they're going to just think I'm scamming them. So if you're priced cheaply, you can make it work. Okay, you should be able to close 15% of the leads you get roughly. You should still be able to get leads for a couple $100 a pop if you know how to set up SKAG properly. And you got to answer yourself, is it worth it to do all this for essentially clients that are not to say that they're totally crappy businesses, but smaller businesses and or businesses that don't want to pay very much. Vijay, for new accounts, how many number of conversions enough to switch from manual CPC to max conversions? Roughly about 30, just to keep it short. Hobbis, thank you so much. No, you're welcome, buddy. What do you mean by you always want to keep your daily budget on the campaign higher than what the campaign is doing, assuming you are at a profitable TCPA, because it will push the campaign to try to scale? So the keyword there, instead of being higher though, it should be lower. The TCPA is really like a lever. People don't look at it like that. They just look at it as, well, I need a $30 lead cost, so that's what I'll set it. It's always a dial that you're just simply moving. If it's higher, the campaign's going to run more aggressively. It's lower, it's not going to run as aggressively, ultimately, right? So ideally, though, if you are already at you know that you need a $30 cost per conversion, and let's say you're getting it. My suggestion to you would be to still set your target CPA to $27, because it'll force Google to try to be efficient, versus if you're at $30 and then you have a 2 or 3 days where it was easy for Google to find you customers. You know what they're going to do? They're going to try to even you out. They're going to send you some shitty clicks, knowing they're not going to convert, and knowing that you ain't going to notice it nor care that you got these shitty clicks, because they need to pawn those shitty clicks off on somebody. They know which clicks are quality and which are not. Trust me, they know. They know everything that you've done for the last 20 years. It's in a file somewhere. Everything that you've said, everything that you did, everything that you searched for, every website you went to, every place you've went to. They can mathematically predict, with the billions and billions and billions of dollars they've had to predict these things, what the value, statistical probability, and likelihood of a purchase or lead being generated that's quality off of a search when a person goes to search. So they know they have to pawn these shitty clicks off on somebody. Ideally, it's an advertiser they don't care that stays around. So you don't want to be a target, and you're not a target if you're telling Google at any given time that you are not satisfied with what you're getting, and you are telling Google you need to be better. Then in that situation, they're going to try to take advantage of somebody else and send the shit clicks over there. That's basically what I mean by making your TCPA lower than, ultimately than what it is. On the flip side, if you're not scaling, then short term you raise the TCPA, even though you may not get the cost per lead that you want, but eventually you'll get enough data that, let's say you're at $30, but now you're at 40. You could do that for 90 days. Look at your data. Find the 25% of the new stuff that Google is pulling in for you that did not work. Get rid of that. Now you're back down to 30, but now you're at 30 on a higher level of conversions than you were before. Think, grow, successful. I tried your approach of pinning headlines as the keyword, but oftentimes I get low quality scores before I get any impressions. How should I handle it? So as I mentioned, when you don't, So Google is not going to like you pinning the headlines, as you know, and you've seen already. However, but that's short term, because if you pin headlines and you get a great click-through rate as a result, the quality scores are going to come up. Short term, no. So what you really got to ask and answer is, can I suffer through initially worse quality scores to get better quality scores after the midterm? And you may not, ultimately say that's good enough because you're not making money yet. And then you therefore don't unpin. So you get initially like the best results you can get. For the most part, you're not going to have the low quality scores for very long. And I'm by default thinking long term. I'm not thinking about like, hey, this has to work this week or nothing, or I'm done. And if you were in that situation, maybe you don't pin the headlines. So there's no way to fix it. I know your question is, well, what do we do about it? Well, there's really nothing you can do. Either you pin the headlines and you bank on knowing, that you're going to have higher click-through rates by having them pinned. Therefore, in 4 to 6 weeks, it's going to be worth it that I pinned them. And just go that route and own it, or don't own it, and that's it. Hobbes, do you have a rule/guide on when to lose the TCPA or tighten it? Also, what is your thought on value bidding instead of Target CPA for lead generation businesses? So the rule/guide, I kind of went into that whole rant here just a second ago about how you always want to have Google chasing it, so to say, so you don't get taken advantage of. So, but in general, at least the way that I'm working with clients. So if I were not working with clients, it'd be a little bit different, but they have the monthly budget that they're willing to spend. And I want to say basically, my business, if I was doing it for my business, would be the same thing. You're spending the $3K a month or $5K a month, whatever it is. And you're either able to easily spend it or you are not. You're able to easily spend it. That's a time when you have you have the option of lowering the TCPA. If you aren't spending it, however, you have to basically raise the TCPA. Really, that's the main formula, if you will. You should always be happy when your campaign's saying limited by budget and you're spending what you need to spend, because that always means there's efficiency cuts you can make, and you can do that through lowering the TCPA, or you can do it by making adjustments to your demographic settings or whatever too, or other things. KCD, in your experience, does the category of the conversion goal matter? For example, I use CallRail and leave it under other, but Google has a tooltip that says to move it into a category for better performance. Yeah. In short, you absolutely want to categorize the goals the best you can, and just in the most logical way that you can. It does matter, and it does help your results, because if you're doing, or should I say at least, or especially when you're setting up full funnel conversion tracking. So you're tracking add to carts, view checkout, or, form fill, phone call, partial form fill, qualified lead, set an appointment, and you're tracking, and then you categorize these properly, they can see, what each goal does and really do a good job for you ultimately. So when you're doing that, it especially is important, especially helps. Mustafa, low ad quality score gets you lower converting leads, trash leads. So I wouldn't say quality score is directly related to that per se. What gets you, so yes and no. It's not like I want to be clear here is to say it's not a guarantee that if you have a low quality score on a keyword, the quality of the lead will be garbage. It certainly could be, and in a majority of the cases, it probably is. you get quality lead or poor quality leads, generally speaking, when your ad rank is lower than your competition's. That's really where you get the low quality leads at, meaning your click-through rates are lower than your competition, your conversion rates are lower than your competition, and you're not willing to spend astronomically more per click than them. You can beat all of them kind of, if they're bidding at $5 a click and you're willing to pay 30, even though your click-through rate and conversion rate isn't as good, your lead quality will probably still be okay, because they're like, well, this guy's a baller. He may not be doing the best, but we're willing to give him some decent leads anyway to encourage him to stay around. For the most part, though, 2/3 of the equation as to whether Google decides to give you a good quality click or a bad quality click is down to the click-through rate and the conversion rate. It's not the money anymore, because they don't want bozos coming in, spending 5 minutes on their ads and pissing off their users so that they go run off and use ChatGPT next time. They're not even in a position where they can even do this anymore. They're really already losing their users. They start pissing off their users by just going with Mr. Moneybags. They're going to lose it all. And they know this. Vijay, all my client campaigns are running on max conversions. What's the reason to go with TCPA instead? The main thing would be there when you need to walk down the cost per conversion. If you don't need to walk it down and it's already good enough, there isn't necessarily a reason to switch it over, is what I would tell you. Mustafa, ad rank and ad quality is the same thing. So ad rank is basically, I know it's kind of confusing. There's quality score that's basically the same as ad rank. Ad quality itself is Google's view of your ad, but that's only one part of the ad rank. Ad rank, they're looking at your ad quality and your landing page quality. Both would be the simple reply to that ultimately. And for the most part, even though Google's going to try to usually weight the ad and the landing page the same, there's more variability in the landing page. So most of the time, 70, 80% of the ad rank that you get that decides what kind of quality traffic you get is going to be based upon the landing page / website, because it can be done so horribly bad as compared to what it can be done on the good side. I mean, you literally could be talking about, instead of like some guy could have in the kitchen remodeling space 1% conversion rate, and I can have 15. So my shit's 15 times better, as opposed to where the guy that doesn't know how to write an ad maybe still be able to get a 2% click-through rate, and I can get a 10. There's less variance in the good versus the bad side, if you will. So whereas people don't want to focus on the landing page and they just want to make the campaign better, and because it's easy, let's just be fair and honest about it. That's not where the big return comes from. And also people just underestimate what it costs to do a good landing page / good website. Good e-commerce website that converts very, very well is mid 5 figures. And I know people are going to say I'm a freaking moron for saying that, but to have a team of people who know how consumer behavior works and consumer psychology and all that stuff, you ain't getting that for $5,000 anymore. And if you do, you got to give the person doing the work step-by-step instructions. You place this here, you do this here. Otherwise, you ain't going to get a highly converting website most of the time. Landing pages, several grand for one page. At least one master template, we'll say. And again, people like to say I'm a freaking moron for doing that. But I test these things all the time. Anybody who knows how to make a landing page that works, don't sell their time for $300 a landing page. That's what people want to believe. They also want to believe AI is good enough to just do it. And if that's all it took, nobody would be using landing page designers anymore. They'd only use AI. That's not happening yet. So take it for what you will. Hobbes, would you pin only the first position on your headline or the 3 of them? What is your method on testing headlines? So generally speaking, I'm going to test I'm going to have the first position on the headline pinned because I use SKAG campaigns, because SKAG always gets the best results 99% of the time. Then from there, it depends on how strongly I feel about the second headline needing to be a certain thing based upon my previous experience. And if so, I'll pin it. If I'm not sure totally what needs to be in the second position, or I know that there's a lot of different types of buyers, then I won't pin it. So let's say if they're buying a mattress and I don't know that person, when they're searching for buy mattress, are buying it because they have back pain or they're hot and they don't like the fact the mattress gets them hot, I can have different headlines there, not pin them. Then Google on a user by user basis is going to have the headline match what that they know about that person, what they wanted. And they would know that by what they've searched in the past, what they've looked at in the past, like we were talking about before. So we would do that. However, in a situation like with the towing business, we already know everybody wants quick, they want cheap, right? And so we don't have to have 5 headlines that we're testing in our ad to figure out what works the best. Or if I've just ran an ad in that space before, I know what second headline works the best. I don't need to pin it, anything. And then I will just put that second headline the way that it is. Now, even then, though, if I already know that what people want is quick, I can still have 5 different variations of a headline that mentions that we're quick and not pin it. So overall, I pin the second headline less than I pin it. I've got to be really certain a certain headline is going to work before I pin it. But with the first headline, I know having the keyword in there is going to work better than anything, even though sometimes we'll put the keyword plus maybe another additional word or two. But generally speaking, I know most of the time what the headline needs to be. It'll be like buy keyword or keyword for sale or keyword price or whatever. And I'm not going to go ahead and waste time testing a bunch of stuff in that position because I don't need to. Your goal should be, though, just to summarize this as well, your goal is to test as little as possible. I mean, it contradicts what Google's telling you because most people don't know their ass from a hole in the wall in terms of writing an ad. But you don't want the algorithm to have to test a million things to find you the most ideal ad, because it's just wasting time. It's wasting your money. It's wasting time. Instead of testing 15 things just with a half-ass effort and randomly pulling headlines out of your ass to test, instead of doing that, do proper research and thought into what's the 3 most likely to work and try to run those, because you're going to get to the end result that you want quicker that way. Spend more time and come up with less headlines as a result. You're going to get to big money sooner than just letting Google test a bunch of random crap, which if you don't know what you're doing, that's still better than not testing a bunch of random crap. But even people that don't know how to write ads would still most of the time be better off finding 3, 4, 5 good headlines as opposed to 15 half-ass ones and then testing in that. So, anyway, so we're at the bottom of the list in terms of questions. We rattled through all of them. I have to run here anyway. I had to go in within 5 minutes here. I will try to answer one last question since I got one here from Shirash. How to scale campaigns. So with that, the main thing is know your numbers up front. Don't guess. How many leads do you need to make a sale? How much is the sale worth? What's the lifetime value of a customer? How much ROI do you need with your product costs or margins to be profitable? Find your number. Then set up your ads and your tracking to know if you hit your number. Once you hit your number on a low budget, start scaling the ad budget. That's the simple way to explain it, which that sounds stupid. How simple, like you're probably thinking like, duh, I know that. Like you didn't tell us anything, but 80% of people don't even get that one simple thing right. So take it down to the basics. Then at that point in time, once you know that, it's actually just what ad do I need? What landing page do I need? And how to target it? And then you're good. You're gold. Right? And then to do that, you just have to find out what it is that people want more than anything else. Just read your competitors' reviews. What do they bitch about? What do they want? Make your ads say that. Then target people that you know want to hear it. And then make sure when they get to your site that it's not confusing as hell, that they get what they want quickly. These are just basic things that people don't really think about. And it's mainly because they want to oversimplify the process. Process is simple, but when it comes to making the landing page, instead of just winging it and be like, oh, well, it has the words on the page that I need, and this is good enough. Think about your competition that is likely making money, what their page looks like. Why does it make money? How do I replicate this? How do I improve upon it? And you'll make money. So anyway, thanks, Vijay. Glad you had a good time. And, why do we even need CRM, by the way, Mustafa? You don't. Frankly, you can get by with Google Sheets for a long time. Until you have a lot of leads coming in, you really don't need one. People usually get one before they need one. But you need a CRM eventually to be able to, at least for B2B, I would say, because you have a bunch of contacts under a certain company and you got to be able to associate those contacts together. And it gets a little confusing with the Google Sheet by itself. So, I think the simple way to say it is it'll be apparent when you need it because it's getting hard to manage all your contacts. And there's more salespeople involved and they're getting confused. Then you'll know you need it. But try to, until then, if it's not obvious, don't use it. Anyway, guys, hopefully that was helpful. I appreciate all the comments as usual. Try to give as honest answers as I can. Even though I know I come off as abrasive sometimes, I'm also just trying to give you the honest facts. Whereas these other guys they're going to oversimplify everything because it sounds good, sounds great. It's not, the truth when it comes to this stuff is rare. And I want to be the guy that focuses on the truth, even if it means we lose some subscribers and or viewers. Okay. Thanks, Mustafa. I'll see you guys later. See you next week. Same time, same place.